First, we're gonna make a decadent triple chocolate cheesecake in the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker and air crisper. And then I ended up with a little bit of extra ganache, so I turned those into truffles and we're gonna have fun making 3 different flavors. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today, we're gonna make a super easy and delicious triple chocolate cheesecake. Yeah, say that one 3 times fast. It's a mouthful, but oh my gosh, it is so easy to do. I'm gonna break it down into little steps and you can follow along and whip this beautiful dessert up in no time at all. First thing we need to do is get our chocolate melted. What I have here in this bowl is 2/3 of a cup of dark chocolate chips. You can use any type of chocolate chips you want. I would not use white chocolate, that's a kind of totally different thing. But any kind of, milk chocolate, semi-sweet, or like I like the dark chocolate. We need to get them melted. Now, you could do this in the microwave for a few seconds and stir, and then a few more seconds and stir and all that stuff. But what I usually do is just let the Ninja Foodi work as a double boiler and melt my chocolate for me while I'm preparing the chocolate crust, which I will we'll get to in just a minute. I'm so excited about this. I love chocolate. Anyway, so you can use a double boiler, which I have 2 different kinds here. So this one has a nice handle and it works great. And I do use it a lot for double boiling in the Ninja Foodi because it fits really nice in the pot. And then of course you fill the pot with water and you steam and then you put your chocolate in here and it melts really nicely. So I do use this one a lot. This one I prefer when I'm using a stove, and a little saucepan. I prefer this one just because I like the way it sits on a pot. But the problem with this design when you have a large diameter pot is if you don't have it just right, it will fall in. So I don't use this one in the Ninja Foodi that much because I have to kind of always hold on to it and I don't want to be bothered with that. So, but if you don't have a double boiler, that's no problem. You can do it the way I'm going to show you. Put in 2 cups of just plain old water into the inner pot. Put the rack in the high position here. So you don't want to put this in the low position. It'll be closer to the water, and as the water starts to boil, it could actually overheat the bottom, and chocolate's pretty temperamental, so you never want to overheat it or it just seizes up and it's not going to give you the nice melted chocolate that we want to put in our cheesecake. So I'm just going to put it up here and hit the sear saute and hit it on and turn it on high. Now this is not going to be as efficient. We're going to lose a lot of steam. I might even have to add some water, but it will work, okay? Not as quick as the microwave, I will tell you. So if you don't have a double boiler, you might want to use the microwave. Anyway, all right, so the next thing we need to do is make up our crust. And so I wanted to just kind of go over some things that I tried because I really wanted this to be a super fun dessert. So I tried ice cream cones because it just sounded like so good. Like, oh, let's do ice cream cones as the crust. It wouldn't be a chocolate crust, but it just sounded good to me. And I think Jeff actually came up with the idea. But guess what? It was horrible. I mean, horrible. Like, the cones did not maintain their flavor. I mean, I knew they wouldn't maintain their texture, but it was not good. So I decided that I was going to make a triple chocolate cheesecake, and we're going to use chocolate animal crackers for the crust. Now you could use Oreo cookies. You could use whatever kind of crust you wanted. I mean, any kind of cookie or anything like that. Perfectly fine. But I'm going to use the chocolate animal crackers. And this is about 3 cups of animal crackers. And I'm just going to vent this a little bit so I don't pop the bag and get my meat tenderizer and start to break these up. You could do this super quick and easy in the food processor, but I didn't feel like dragging mine out. So I'm just gonna do it by hand. So there's tons of steam coming out and I do have some melting starting here, but I'm losing a lot of the steam. So it's not very efficient. So I thought, let me see if I can modify this. For those of you who want to use this as a double boiler, use the Ninja Foodi and don't have a pot. So I'm just going to use a little piece of foil just to sort of concentrate that steam a little bit more towards the chocolate. And I think that's going to work out really well. So we'll see. So we'll leave that alone for a little bit. It is starting to melt on the bottom, so it will happen. It just takes time. All right, so I finished crushing up these cookies. It was 3 cups, like I said. I also weighed it. It was about 6.5 ounces of the cookie. So if you have a different shaped cookie, you can go with 6 ounces. And I'll even tell you how many cups of the crumbs. We're gonna end up putting it into this bowl. So let's see, it's probably about 2 cups is what I would think. Yep, 2 cups. All right, so 3 cups of the animal crackers whole becomes 2 cups crushed, or 6.5 ounces. And I see a few little bigger pieces here, so I'm just gonna go through and break these up. That chocolate's now starting to really melt, so that's good. Then we have to mix this with butter so that it sets and forms our cheesecake crust. What I'm using as a pan to bake it in is the Pampered Chef springform pan. This is, I think, about 7.5 inches in diameter, and it is a really nice pan. It's very heavy duty, and it just works really great. All right, so when you start to see your chocolate chips melting, you can just give them a little bit of a stir around. Be very careful though when you're doing this, because steam burns can be horrible. So be very careful. And also you don't want to get any water into your chocolate, or that can cause it to seize up too. I might be regretting a little bit that I didn't bring out my food processor, because I did not get these like well enough in that little bag, or I should have had a bigger bag. That's all right. You know what? We improvise. So I'll just stick this right in here and keep doing it until they are all pretty small. You don't want really big pieces, because they don't work out that well to make the crust. All right, that's good enough. Use a food processor. It'll be easier for you, for sure. All right, now let's go ahead and stir our chocolate. It's looking really, really good. It's almost completely melted. In fact, the residual heat would probably continue to or finish melting all of these chips up. But what I'm going to do is just leave the Ninja Foodi on just for another minute or two while I mix up the crust, and then we will get the chocolate out and we will move on to baking our crust a little bit. All right, so whenever you're making a crust, especially if you want to make it up yourself and use, different types of ingredients than the recipe calls for, what I usually do is get a good amount of butter melted, because you don't know exactly the ratios that you're going to need, but there is a texture that you want to go for to form the crust. You don't want it too wet and you don't want it too dry. So what I do is grab probably like a half of a cup of butter and melt it, and it's not even hot anymore, but it still is melted. So I'm just going to stir it up so it's incorporated a little bit better. And then I just add like 1 to 2 tablespoons of the butter at a time, and then just kind of mix it around, and you'll be able to see, like, obviously that is not nearly enough butter, so I know it's going to take at least 4 tablespoons, but you'll be able to judge, so that, if you're not following a recipe, this is a way to just figure it out so you don't use too much butter. In fact, I think it's going to take about 5. All right, let's see. That's looking better. Almost. But we still have a lot of loose cookie crumbles here. So when I get to about this point where I'm thinking, oh, it's looking pretty good, I squeeze it. Pretty good. It held together pretty good, but I think I'm going to go with 1 or 2 more tablespoons of butter. But you could probably get away with this. It would be okay. And we are fine here. I can turn that off, let that steam dissipate some. So before I get the chocolate off, I'm going to go ahead and form the chocolate crust into my springform pan. And the way that I do this is I start with the sides. And unfortunately, just because I'm right-handed, I need to go this way. I know it'd be easier if I went that way, but I won't get it right, so I have to go this way. All right, so what I do is I start with the sides and I just sprinkle the cookie mixture down here and then I press it. And I rotate and I do the same thing and just press it down. It's another way you'll know if you have a moist enough crumble mixture, because if you don't, it will just start to fall off the edges. So this one's doing really nicely. And you can go up as high or as, low as you want with a cheesecake. Some people just do the bottom, but I'm always worried that my cheesecake's gonna stick to the side. So I go up probably about 3/4 of the way up the sides. All right, so the sides are done now, and I'm gonna do the bottom. And we may not even use all of this. Now, you could use some of this for a topping too if you wanted to add a little extra. That's what I might do, actually, so if I don't use it all. Or you can make a thicker bottom, if you wanted a nice thick crust, which I think would kind of be nice too. You just want to make sure that you don't have any open holes for your cheesecake mixture to leak through. All right, now I've got a few that just, few edges that kind of slip down, so I'm just going to clean those up, make sure we've got, an even looking crust everywhere. And then we will get our chocolate out and we're going to bake the crust just for about 5 minutes in the Ninja Foodi while we whip up the cheesecake batter. All right, so our beautiful pie is done. I decided to use it all and I just made a thicker bottom and made higher sides. So that's what I decided to do. And now I'm gonna set it over here so I can get my chocolate out and let that start to cool a little bit. You don't wanna just grab this, it is hot. So I'm gonna take my gloves here. Take this off. That there. Now I'm going to empty the water just because we're going to bake the crust, and we don't need to have any water in there while we're baking the crust. So I'm just going to take it out and put it right in here. And I might use this water to pressure cook. Although I will say that because it's hot, the time to pressure would be less, and that could result in an underdone cheesecake. So I will probably just get tap water like I always do. All right, so I'm going to grab the rack here, and we're going to put the cheesecake pan, the springform pan, on the rack. We don't need to preheat for this or anything. All we're doing is just setting in the crust. So we're just gonna bake it for 5 minutes at 325 degrees. We're just gonna close this lid, go to the bake roast, take it down to 325, hit start, and go 5 minutes, and that's done. Okay, so while that's happening, I'm gonna go ahead and stir this chocolate up, which it melted beautifully. So everything is good to go here. And we can start whipping up our cheesecake batter. So you're gonna need a bowl here. You need 8 ounces of cream cheese. And I've got little spots of what I was pounding. Got little spots of cookies in mine. That won't hurt anything, I'm not gonna worry about it. So 8 ounces of room temperature cream cheese, 1/2 cup of plain white sugar. And then you could use the stand mixer or you can use a hand mixer. I'm gonna use the hand mixer today. All right, turn it on low. All right, that looks good. All right, that looks good. Do not overbeat. You don't want to overmix your cheesecake. So just until the sugar and the cream cheese comes together. And now we're going to go ahead and add in our chocolate. And I just add it all in at once. It is not really hot right now. If it was super hot, I would wait a few minutes and let it cool down, but this is just, you know, barely warm now. All right, looks good. And then I'm gonna add in, this is totally optional, so don't worry if you don't have it. I'm gonna add in 1 teaspoon of instant espresso powder. Again, don't worry if you don't have it. It's not a big deal. I haven't used it in the test recipes because I ran out, but I love using the espresso powder or instant granules in chocolate desserts because they really heighten the flavor of the chocolate, but they don't taste like coffee, so don't worry about that either if you're not a coffee fan. All right, now we're gonna mix this all up. And then we have to add in our salt, our eggs, and our vanilla. All right, that looks good. Again, I'm not overbeating just until it is completely, you know, incorporated. Then I'm gonna go ahead and add in my salt, which is 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and then I'm gonna crack in 1 egg at a time. And I usually do this into a bowl in case I end up getting a shell, then I don't have to dig through my batter there. And I'm gonna add in 1 egg at a time. And that was medium speed, and I just beat it until I no longer can see any remnants of the egg, just till it's incorporated. I also like to, before the final mix, go around the edges and pull it in, just in case there's things on this side here that haven't incorporated. And no matter how careful I am, anytime I make anything with chocolate, I end up covered in chocolate no matter what I do. It's all right though, I don't mind. Okay, so we're gonna go down here a little bit and just make sure that all the cream cheese is in. You can even like fold it over to make sure that nothing on the bottom, you know, has not gotten incorporated. Then put in the final egg, and we're just going to do another little mix on medium speed. Isn't that convenient? So that's done. We can open that up. And so it takes exactly, what, 5 minutes to make up the cheesecake batter. Now I'm gonna go around the edges again, just to get everything incorporated. And I might do one more little mix, and then we are done. We're gonna let our pan cool off just a little bit so we're not pouring this into the hot bottom. And then we will get under pressure and finish cooking our cheesecake. Take this out. All right, so we're gonna get our pan out, let that cool for a few minutes. 1 cup of plain tap water into the inner pot. And then I am just gonna go and give this one little final mix. I scraped around the sides and got as much off of the spatula as I could. And one little final mix. And that is it on medium speed. That is perfectly fine. You do not wanna overmix your batter. All right. Now, get it in and get it pressure cooking. All right, let's see. Can I touch it? Yes, I can touch it. It's still a little warm, but it'll be fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put the cheesecake filling into the crust. This looks so amazing. You know, the first time I heard about a chocolate cheesecake, I mean, I've heard of them, but somebody asked me to make one. And I was like, it didn't even sound good. Like chocolate and cheese, I don't know. It just didn't sound right to me. but I made one and I was like, wow, this is really good. So I'm definitely a fan. I'm just trying to get as much of this batter off as I can, and then it's good enough. All right. You always want to cover your cheesecake, although I have heard people that have not covered them and they say they turn out fine, but I'm of the mindset that we're pressure cooking and this liquid's going to be steam, and then when we do a natural release, it turns back into liquid, and I don't want it falling on my newly cooked cheesecake, so I'm going to cover. I use these silicone covers, but you could use foil if you wanted. Then we're going to go ahead and put it back on the rack in the low position. Go ahead and lower it in. Turn the valve to the seal position, and we are going to go under pressure. High is what we want, and we're going to go for 25 minutes. All right, so I ran back in here because I put it under pressure and I could not remember how long I need to natural release. So I was trying to look it up real quick, and then we heard all this steam coming out, and I thought, yeah, let's get back on camera because this happens sometimes. So when it went under pressure and it started the countdown, but then all of a sudden, like all this steam started to release. I don't want you to worry about that. Sometimes when you just have liquid, like a thin, water like we do in here, sometimes it will release some of the extra built up pressure. That is a safety mechanism that is built in to electric pressure cookers. So the valve in the back is weighted, and when too much pressure is pushing against it, it lifts up and it vents all this steam. And it can be scary if you've never seen it before. You figure you're going to have a quiet machine once you go under pressure. Not all the time. That's what happened. But it has now just settled down, and we are still pressure cooking, so we're good to go. And now I got to go look up the natural release time because I can't remember. All right, so it took about 4 minutes for the pot to come under pressure. And then, of course, you know that we had that little incident here where the steam was coming out. No big deal. That can happen. And then we pressure cook for 25 minutes, and it is a 10-minute natural release. So now that it's switched over to the keep warm, and you can just leave that on. It does not do anything. It doesn't slow down the natural release or anything like that. So we're just going to leave it alone for 10 minutes, and then I'll release any remaining steam, and we will pull it out, take a look at it, and get it into the refrigerator to chill. Very, very little pressure, really. I mean, what did it take? 10 seconds. So that's almost a full natural release with that little bit of water in the pot. So we are good to go. Now we can open up the lid. And let me grab a paper towel, because what I like to do is put a paper towel on top so that when I'm moving this, we don't end up getting water into our cheesecake. All right, I'll just put that right on top. The moment of truth. It smells good though. Like I can smell the chocolate. It smells really good. All right, so just lift the pan out. And then open it up. It looks really, really good. All right, so when your cheesecake is done, you want it to be set but jiggly, okay? And that's exactly what this one is. I can tell that the edges are a little more set and the center's a little jiggly. That is exactly how you want it. Now, we're gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna let it sit out room temperature for about 30 minutes just to let all the major steam off. And then I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator, and I'm gonna refrigerate it for at least 8 hours. Usually I just refrigerate it till the next day. So after it's in the refrigerator overnight, we're gonna top it with some delicious ganache. Ooh, I can't wait. All right, so I left the cheesecake out on the counter for about an hour just to have it, cool down some so it wasn't real steamy. And I covered it back up and put it in the refrigerator overnight. Now we're going to have the big reveal and see how it looks. Well, it looks beautiful, that's for sure. So now we need to get the sides off so that we can finish decorating it, put some ganache on top and some little mini chocolate chips. One of the things that I'm always worried about when I do this is the crust gonna stick? I hope not. So I'm just gonna do this and kind of see. Oh no, it did not. It looks good. And then lift straight up. All right, now there's a couple of things that you can do here. So there was enough room in here where I probably could have made 1.5 times the amount of the chocolate cheesecake and have it thicker. And that would be fine if you wanted to do that. But I tend to think that, cheesecake's pretty rich, so I like to give little small pieces anyway. So now we have this big edge around here. You can either crumble it down if you want, or we could fill it up a little higher with the ganache, have a thick layer of chocolate, which might be pretty good, or you can meet in the middle and do half and half. So I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna think about that for a second. And while I think about that, let's make the ganache. Now the ganache we're gonna make for the consistency that we want to put on top of our cheesecake is a 1-to-1 ratio of dark chocolate and cream, heavy cream. You need to use heavy cream. You can't make a ganache if you want to use, half and half or milk or anything like that. You need to have heavy cream to make a ganache or you won't have the right consistency. It won't set up. It'll just be too runny. And then the chocolate that you want to use, I'm using chocolate chips, but they are Ghirardelli chocolate chips, so they are a higher end chocolate chip. The best thing to use is a baking bar. And they either come, you can find them in the grocery store and they're bakers, or you can find the Ghirardelli kind. You can use bittersweet, you can use, what I'm using is just a dark 60% cocoa, or you can use milk chocolate. Semi-sweet, whatever you want, you can use. It's no problem. So what we're gonna do to make the ganache, I'm gonna do it right in the Ninja Foodi, or at least part of it. You could do it on the stove as well. Pour in your cup of heavy cream. And we wanna bring this up to just about a simmer. You don't wanna boil it, but we just wanna go to a nice simmer. So I'm gonna start off on medium. I might take that down if it seems to be heating too much. Then I have a little bowl here and I'm gonna dump in my chocolate chips, and that's 1 cup of the chocolate chips. Now, this is gonna make a good amount of ganache, much more than we need for this, but I wanted to have a little extra because I'm thinking about making a little bit of a whipped buttercream to sort of decorate the edges. I haven't totally decided if I'm gonna do that or not, but I wanted to have some extra. You can also add some more chocolate to the 1-to-1 ratio. So add another little bit of chocolate, get it a little stiffer, and you could roll it into truffles. So you can definitely use any of the leftover ganache in a ton of different ways. So don't worry about making too much. All right, so let's just let that heat up. And what do I want to do with this? Oh my gosh. I don't know yet. I think I'm going to leave it alone until I add on the ganache and the mini chocolate chips, but I'm not going to put that thick layer. It would be good though. Be a thick layer of fudge. I don't know. Let's see. We'll just see. We'll wing it, All right. Whenever you're making desserts and you want to decorate them, it's fine to wing it, Just have fun with it. All right. So let's just let this heat up. It's going to take probably about 5 minutes or so, and then we will pour it over our chocolate and just let it sit. Don't stir right away or anything. Let the heat from the heavy cream melt the chocolate. All right, I was seeing a few little bubbles, not boiling, but just little simmer bubbles. So I just gave it a stir, and now I'm just gonna wait just another minute. And you see little small bubbles here, so, and I see some steam coming up. So you know what? We are good to go. It wasn't even a minute, maybe 30 seconds that I waited. All right, so now turn the Ninja Foodi off. And I like to just move all the heavy cream to the side here. This is not hot. It didn't heat up long enough for it to be hot. And then we pour this over our chocolate. And then let the heat from the heavy cream melt the chocolate. Don't stir it, nothing. You don't need to do anything. And we'll wait maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, till I can start to see the chocolate melting. And then we'll give it a stir. We'll whisk it up, and our ganache will be finished. And then we will pour it on top. And I've decided that I am gonna do a thicker layer of the ganache and then decorate with some mini chocolate chips on top. I think that's gonna be beautiful. And then we get to slice it and taste it, which is the best part, always. All right, so it's been about 3 minutes or so, and we're gonna go ahead and just see how they're melting. And they are melting fine, okay? So it works really, really well, and it's very, very easy. So what I like to do is just sort of move everything around in here. So I know that they're all nicely melted. And then I'm gonna whisk it. Now I'm just gonna take a little whisk and just start to whisk. I probably could have used a bigger bowl, but that's okay. So you'll start to see it thicken up and you will see the cream start to incorporate into the chocolate and it becomes ganache. That's perfect. Okay. Now, what's going to happen, because it's liquid right now, it's going to pour on top of this cake beautifully, but then we let it set up. So I'll put it back in the refrigerator for a little bit and let it set up. All right. When you're going to pour ganache, now you could either pour it like right from here, you could put it into, a measuring cup and pour it like that. I might actually pour it. I'm thinking that that's going to be better. So just pour it in the middle. Oh my gosh, am I gonna really use all of it? All right, let's just let that kind of spread around. You can use the back of your spoon and just sort of go around and let it fill in. This is gonna be so good. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. What do you think? Do I take it even higher? Oh, that would be rich. I think we're good. I don't want it to be too rich, maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit more. All right, so I probably used about 3/4 of that, so that's enough. And now I can just make a nice little design on the top. It's so shiny. Make sure it got all to the edges, and it did. Oh my gosh. Okay, now let's put on our chocolate chips. Of course, totally optional. You could leave this alone. You could put nuts on top. You could actually add a layer of caramel, which I would do under if you wanted to do it that way. I would put the caramel on, let that set up, and then put the ganache on. That would be really lovely. All right, so these are the mini chocolate chips. And we're just gonna, oh gosh, this is so pretty. Like, oh, do I even want to add them? I have to think about this because this is so gorgeous right now. Jeff, what do you think? All right, so I talked it out with Jeff because I was looking at these. They're brand new, but they've got this like whiteness to them that happens sometimes when you put chocolate chips in the freezer, but these weren't in the freezer. So I was thinking, but I tasted them. They taste good, and I think it's actually gonna give like a cool look. So I am gonna go ahead and put them on, and I'm just gonna start in the middle here. You can use as many or as few as you want. I want to be able to see the ganache from underneath. So I'm trying to keep them, evenly spread, but not in big clumps here. You want to put these on before the ganache sets up. All right, I think I'm going to stop because I don't want to mess this up. I see some spots that like kind of uneven, but anyway. Hey, I'm not a cake decorator. I think we've established that with all my other videos. Just not a cake decorator, but I enjoy it. It's fun. All right, this is beautiful. Now I'm gonna pop it back into the refrigerator for maybe 20 or 30 minutes just to make sure that everything is set up, that ganache gets cold because it will harden as it gets cold. And then I think what I'll do is maybe show you guys how to make some truffles real quick, okay? All right, so I went ahead and I melted some more dark chocolate, probably about 1/2 cup or so. And I have about maybe 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup in here of the ganache, maybe even 1/2 of a cup. And what I'm gonna do, yeah, probably half of a cup because I used about 3/4 of it. So now what I'm gonna do is add the chocolate to the ganache, because let me show you. If we were gonna try to scoop this and set it up, it would scoop, but it would just fall apart. Even as it chilled, it just would not hold its shape like we need for a truffle. So we're gonna add some more chocolate to it that will harden it up some. I'm not gonna add all, I'm gonna add half at a time. And just mix it up. And I just go by look mostly, but there are definitely recipes with the exact amount. All right, that's definitely, you see how much thicker it is? It's definitely thicker. I'm gonna go ahead and add in the rest. And then I'm heating up some white chocolate over on my double boiler. And while this is chilling for a minute or two, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some other toppings, because there are a ton of different types of truffles that you can make with this one basic dark chocolate mixture. So I'm gonna show you and then talk over a few other ones. So this is a really fun dessert that looks fancy, and it's super easy. They're super easy to make. All right, so let's let this set up a little bit, because it's, even though it's even thicker, it's still not gonna hold its shape. So I'm gonna pop it in the fridge for, a few minutes or so, and then I'll get it out and we'll start rolling up our truffles. All right, so I've got my white chocolate here melting, because I'm gonna dip some of the truffles in some white chocolate for kind of like a tuxedo look. This would be great for a New Year's Eve party, and I'm gonna top it with a little fancy glitter. You can see now that we've got the truffle mixture, the ganache, that's thickened up nicely. So we are ready to form our truffles. Now you can get so creative with this. I'm gonna go over a few different ways that you can do it, but oh my gosh, I mean, you could flavor your chocolate with any flavor of emulsion that you wanted. There's just so many things that you can do to make the truffles, how you like them. I'm gonna do a basic one that is just covered in sifted cocoa powder. So I'm gonna take out a spoonful, put it on my hand. It's a little messy. Roll it around, and then just roll it in the powdered cocoa. And then you just put it on the plate. And you can let these sit up in the refrigerator, or you can just leave them on the counter. Either way is fine. So there is a very traditional way to do a truffle. Okay, another idea could be just to make a truffle and coat it in some crushed up almonds. So just roll your ball there, and then just coat it with these almonds. Now I didn't plan on doing this today, honestly, but if I was, I would have probably toasted these almonds. It would be better, but there's another style that you can do. You can make an almond joy, which I'm gonna do in just a minute, but I wanna get some of them dipped into the white chocolate first, because then I'm gonna fold in some of these nuts and make an almond joy truffle. Now, ordinarily, again, if I was doing this, I probably would have let them set up a little bit longer, because they're still kind of a little bit icky there. But I wanted to get this video done, so I'm just gonna use my bleach rag here and wipe my hands off of all the chocolate. And then we're gonna put some, and I would definitely chill these ordinarily before I dip them in chocolate, because you want them to be nice and cold. But we're gonna just go through this because this is just a little extra. I wanted to show you what to do if you have leftover ganache. All right, so I'm gonna make a couple of Almond Joy ones now. So I put 4 of the truffles that I'm gonna dip in the chocolate. I put them into the refrigerator, and you know what? I'm gonna dip a few more. So let me get those out just so I have that separated before I mix in all these almonds. Because I wanna have a nice tray, a nice variety here. All right, take those 3 out and do something else with those. And now I'm just gonna put in a little bit of the almonds and a touch, because I don't have a whole recipe here, you know, or a whole bunch, I just have a little bit. I'm gonna put just a drop of this almond emulsion. Mix that up best I can, because this is really hardening now. Oh gosh, the smell is so amazing. I love Almond Joy. It's one of my favorites. All right, that looks good. So I just mixed in the nuts with a little bit of emulsion. And now we will form. You could use coconut emulsion too, because I do have some of that. And I will link to those below in the video description. And then just simply coat it with some toasted sweetened coconut, which I didn't toast these either because I am just trying to do these for you. But there you go, an Almond Joy. Now what I'm gonna do, oh yeah, they hardened up nicely. So what I'm gonna do is just take them in my fingers here and dip them about halfway, get off any excess, set them on my tray here. And then I hope, and I don't know that this will work, what I would do, I think, if I was doing this for real, is I would put a little bit of chocolate, 'cause I don't think these are gonna hold on right now, but then I would top them with a little bit of these like little sprinkles and then let that set up. Isn't that cute? Well, I hope the ganache is set up enough. I think it has. I really don't want to cut it. It's so gorgeous. But what good is it if we don't taste it? So eventually you're going to have to cut it. So I'm going to make a real tiny sliver here. And I'm using a knife, but I'm not going to go all the way down. And then I have another nylon knife that I'll try to get the crust out. I have scratched up my springform pan because I like to get as clean pieces. Oh, the ganache is perfect. Oh my gosh, this cuts beautifully. I'm just gonna go down. I'm not gonna scrape the bottom. And then pull that out. Oh my gosh, it's a dream to cut. Okay, now, trick. If you're going back in, you want a nice clean slice again, wipe your knife off. I want this to be so small. But it has to be pretty, right? Okay. Right there. Whoops, I broke the dam on the outside. That's okay. All right, I had to cut a little bit bigger of a slice, so I'm gonna have 2 because I can't get the knife underneath there well enough to get to the very center because it was so tiny. So I just made a bigger piece. That's okay. Jeff will be happy because now he can have one. All right, there we go. Oh, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. So I made 2 little slices, just to make it a little bit easier for me to get out. So it looks like that would be a normal size serving. So looks good. I'm just gonna clean this up in here so you can see what it looks like when you cut into it. It's really, really, really pretty. And I am so glad I did that heavier topping. I just think that makes it look so beautiful. All right, let me clean up here and then I'm gonna get to tasting it and then I'll taste a truffle and then I will send you on your way to make your decadent triple chocolate cheesecake and then truffles. All right, let's dig in. I cannot tell you like how beautiful this is. I guess you can see for yourself, but oh, it's even better in person. All right, so let's go ahead and cut this. Oh my gosh. Now I'm gonna get the crust, so I'm gonna go one more in here for you. Oh my goodness. I just can't even get over how wonderful that is with that thick ganache topping. It is so beautiful. Oh my gosh. That's the best cheesecake I've ever tasted in my entire life. Even if you don't like cheesecake, the cheesecake flavor is so mild. It is chocolate. It is a chocolate lover's dream. I love the mini chocolate chips on top. The texture that gives along with the creaminess. And we've got a lot of different textures going on, which is always great when you're eating a dessert or any food, really. We've got like the little crumbly of the crust. Then we've got a very soft cheesecake. And then we've got a little bit harder of the ganache. And then we've got the crunchy mini chocolate chips. This is outstanding and it is perfect. Oh, I love when that happens. All right, let's do a chocolate truffle. So let's see, I'm gonna take the one that doesn't look very good at all. And that's this one. All right, so I didn't do a very good job. I didn't spend enough time dipping them correctly. But anyway, they would be really cute. What you could also do is dip them all in a dark chocolate so that it's a round dark chocolate ball. Freeze them or put them in the refrigerator to set up a little bit, and then go back and dip them halfway into the white chocolate to make the little tuxedo ones. But all in all, I'm happy since we were just winging this and having some fun. But it doesn't matter what it looks like. It matters what it tastes like. So here we go. Chocolate lovers are going to love this. It is so good. I bet that almond joy one is good too. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have some fun. Make your cheesecake, whip up extra ganache, make up some truffles, and there you've got your desserts. And they're